Hi everyone, Ronald Ingram here, your rebel banker futurist, broadcasting live from the Start again. Hi everyone, Ronald Ingram here, your rebel banker futurist, broadcasting live right now from the Nevada high desert, looking down on the Luxor Pyramid. We're going out on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and everywhere else the signal reaches. It's a high velocity week across the entire SPOC, Vegas banking zone, Genius ecosystem, and the momentum from the Crypto Monday is already feeding directly into what we're doing. Very interesting event. And I'm going to try to stay on track and keep this to an hour tonight. First, I'm going to talk about the innovation in financing that I've come up with, where we will be able to utilize the treasury of SPOC digital assets without actually spending them by borrowing against them. Very simple idea, but I think this is relatively novel, and we call it basically a convertible note. And this is something that more institutional scale investors can participate in. And we're doing a raise of $2.5 million, and that will and this is an exempt offering for sophisticated investors, and it's not a security; it's a convertible note. So I just want to let you know about that's something that we're doing, that's coming along, and basically think of it as like a line of credit on a home, right? So banks will often provide credit lending facilities based on good collateral like home equity. Well, with SPOC, we have a highly liquid asset that's totally fungible, convertible into cash. So essentially, we have a cash collateralized loan. So the funds that we borrow, which are backed by the treasury, are 100% collateralized by SPOC, which is essentially cash collateral. So very interesting structure that I have now some folks interested in, and that will be fantastic for our project going forward. It's always good to have a war chest and immediately as funds come in, a portion of that, at least 20%, goes into purchasing additional SPOC. So you can imagine the impact that will have in talking about investments, 100,000 plus type investments, notes, convertible notes coming in, that each one of which would be generating immediate, quite large sales transactions for purchases of the digital asset SPOC. So that's a pretty neat, novel idea that is gaining some interest, and we hope to close some transactions on that. Tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about some really exciting developments on the engineering side as well. So AI engineering is you can't really talk about AGI, about advanced superintelligence. You can't really talk about creating an agents of the caliber that we're talking about, that we're creating and have already demonstrated with BROK, without talking about, and we've talked about this before, about the structure of consciousness itself and how memory interacts with foresight and thought and self-observation, also known as metacognition. So one of these really interesting synchronistic events that occurred was there's a really vibrant, great group of folks at the in Vegas that are part of a community that meet on Mondays at a great venue called the Legacy Club on the picture of it here, Bitcoin Mondays in Vegas, or crypto. We've changed it to Crypto Mondays, and a great group of people. And I met this very interesting individual, quite cryptic, literally, and who was a pioneer is a pioneer right from the early days of Bitcoin. So we're talking 2017, I think. So you can, and we're not talking about a passing interest. We're talking about somebody that was involved deeply in the emergence of Bitcoin from the very early days. And I think I may have found kind of a missing link that I didn't know about in that was maybe, I thought my book Genius would have been published long before now. But with Spock, kind of we've been focusing so much effort and development of Spock and then BROK, and that's been the priority, will continue to be the priority. But I don't know yet, because I just got the book. Fascinating. I have, if you've read any on my Substack, you'll see that Genius, a key figure in the book Genius, where I study geniuses in all different flavors of genius, if you will, from the normal high IQ mad scientist types like Nikola Tesla, to ancient sages and stages. Some of the stages in kind of the middle between ancient and modern. And one of the most interesting, obscure individuals in the that I talk about in the book extensively, and that has been a basis for a lot of my work in consciousness and mapping consciousness, is someone by the name of Gurdjieff. Not a lot of people have heard that name, and if you want to, you'll encounter quite a bit about Gurdjieff in my book. And a lot of his teaching was based on, and it's not very much in his book, because a lot of it came through an oral tradition that I had the good fortune to connect with. And but you can see, if you have as large a collection of books on Gurdjieff as I do, probably larger than all the libraries in Nevada put together, I have public and private, and so you will encounter a few books and a few references to a sacred geometrical object called the Enneagram, which is in its well-known form by Riso and Hudson, is become a very common in psychological circles in the corporate world for personality testing. And I don't know if you're seeing where this is going yet, but so the DISC and Myers-Briggs are all personality tests that are maybe even more familiar. But the Enneagram is also one that is a little bit more esoteric, but quite familiar in the corporate world. Many books written about it. But the origins are a little bit veiled in mystery, and were really taught and heavily influenced by Gurdjieff's teachings about consciousness and how the mind works. Because how can, with AI, what we're trying to do, if you think about it, is instantiate consciousness in machine form. And how can you actually do that if you don't understand what consciousness even is? So this is a key part of my work. I've kind of steered away from it because it's a little bit more complicated and esoteric, but it is a key part that must be understood by AI engineers if you want to develop something that is actually intelligent. So anyway, this book or a book was recommended to me, and as I said already, I have probably one of the largest libraries, in North America on Gurdjieff, and this book is called, I'll tell you, it's called Gurdjieff Cosmic Secrets, and I haven't read it yet, so I won't. I don't want to get too excited, but it was just such a weird coincidence meeting this veteran sage of the cryptographic world, who also had a shared interest in Gurdjieff that just popped into the conversation from nowhere, and the heavy importance of that book, and he's very private, doesn't show his face on screen, so I'm not going to say his name. I don't even know his name. He goes by a nickname, I think, with most people. But if you're listening, you'll notice, and viewers who have been on these live casts before can attest, if they looked in the background, the fourth book on the top of in the middle stack there is a book called With Gurdjieff. So Gurdjieff is literally on the stack, and on the base of that stack is another really, really important book that anybody that really wants to go deep. Someone asked me about teaching them about how to develop advanced AI today, and so that would be to really take this as far as it's going to go. You're going to have to understand consciousness. Sorry, it's esoteric. It's complicated. That's the way it is. But the book at the base of that stack is The Origins of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind by Julian Jaynes, a classic in psychology and consciousness as well, from more of a Western scientific view. And so Gurdjieff, and he was born in Armenia. This is a fascinating country. His father was a bard. So one of these people that had had incredibly accomplished memories, and were incredibly accomplished. It was incredibly accomplished in terms of the volume of information, quality information that he could retain, going back thousands and thousands of years to the origins of human civilization, which if the Middle East is the cradle of civilization, there's new research coming to light in archaeology, just look up latest breaking news around Lake Van in the border. And everyone always talks about Turkey, but in fact, they're often talking about Armenia. Armenia is never mentioned, but Armenia is where you have Mount Ararat and Lake Van. And in Lake Van, there's new ruins that have been uncovered, pointing to a really, really early structures. There is an ancient civilization called Urartu that may even predate. Very, very controversial, speculative, but now there's archaeological evidence around the origins of civilization, which go along with the origins of consciousness. And so AI engineering is not boring. It is, if you really want to understand how to make great AI, you have to understand what makes great consciousness. So this ends up becoming even if you started out pure hardcore Western reductionist science, you're going to end up having to go down this what would seem to many Western scientists and to many reductionists to be a rabbit hole, but it's not. It's more like a wormhole into another dimension. So wow, some pretty esoteric stuff there, right? But this is the level of thinking, and I'll break it down and make it really simple. Okay, so something tangible that anybody at any level that's doing AI engineering can use, and it came about as a result of working on BROK's persistent memory. So early on, you remember, said, "I've got it, I've solved it." BROK has a perfect, permanent memory. We'll never forget any conversation that you have with it, and that was true, and that was a problem. So, an engineering problem, which we're solving by having to more closely mimic and mirror the structure of consciousness as it truly is, versus an overly simplified models. So that was a really kind of neat link that kind of gets me excited. And also there was, on the business side, there's some tremendous potential there. You may have already noticed that having some breakthroughs. We need to get more eyeballs on this project. So everyone that we've talked to, most of you that have been viewing these live streams, I think a lot of you have been coming for quite a while and coming back, and people that are mostly if they do spend a little bit of time to do their own research and dig deep and to discover that this is not a one and done, come and go, pump and dump meme coin. This is the utility that we're building here is incredibly long term. We're talking about infrastructure for global banking, a global banking system, of interstellar banking system of the future. So we're building something really long term. This is a really don't let the size and the size of this community, which has grown a lot from nothing to over 1,000, deceive you. That's it's still small compared to many of the big projects, the billion-dollar projects that are out there already, which we will get to in my view. That's aspirational. Okay, that's just supposed to say that, but that's my deeply held conviction. But to never forget this little quote from Bucky. Never forget that you are one of a kind, and it only takes one person. One person can make a difference in the world. In fact, it is always because of one person that all the changes that matter in the world come about. So be that one person. Great quote from Buckminster Fuller, and one of the great thinkers and inventors and rebel philosophers and contrarians of American culture and science. So that is so really, and also that meeting has led to additional meetings with a large liquidity provider, with invitations to podcasts that are all starting to come together. Yet another community, two more communities: an AI community, development community for serious AI developers working on AI projects, and an organization called Tech Alley. And so I have a meeting on Saturday, connecting and reconnecting. So all of these threads are converging. In addition to being invited onto podcasts, I had a meeting today with the president of a television studio, it's been around for around 11 years. I won't don't want to get too far ahead of this, but that happened. That I had a meeting with the new president of a television studio that was more regionally focused and is now scaling up to do something national. And I've been invited. So I've been invited to participate in this. That's all I'll say at this time. I don't know the timing but this would be reaching large numbers of hundreds of millions of people. So that's worth waiting for. But I think this is coming together fairly quickly. So that's the kind of scale that we're talking about here. So, and that all I wouldn't say it all came from this one crypto meeting, as great as it was, a really savvy, great group of people there at a great venue. But that also is building on from the showcase at Nevada Startup. And it's also leading to, I already am the recipient of, I think I've mentioned before, a government grant. And there are new ones, and so I just submitted for a government grant from another things have been streamlined. I'm very familiar with the grant process, so that makes it easier for me. I'm a known entity, and it's all about everything is about relationships and networks, and more so than ever, actually. So trust is incredibly important. That's part of the reason that I take the time and I really enjoy doing these live streams as a way of connecting more directly, and so that you can, and to be transparent, and so that you can, we can all be more connected, right? Because trust, we're moving more and more, ironically, or somewhat ironically, that as we become more digital and we become more dislocated, in a way we're also more connected. The world's never been smaller because of all of the digital means of connectivity that we have available to us. So, and in this world, though, where we have deep fakes and so many scammers, our minds are being blown by the scale of fraud, waste, and abuse that's happened. People that we would trust in or not financial, but governmental institutions, NGOs have been hopefully abusing banks. Hopefully banks weren't complicit in some of the nefarious financial activities that have been going on and costing American taxpayers billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. So in this world, alignment and trust is more important than ever. And so these groups make these human connections are very useful and fun. So I've been really enjoying to discover how many like-minded people there are out there, and there's a lot of excitement about this movement that I've initiated called the Vegas banking zone, and a lot of people are jumping on board with this. And that was actually the article that I wrote was part of what got me the attention from this new television opportunity. This idea is triggering people's imagination. And if any of Tim Scott's office are listening, the CBZ is the Charleston banking zone is still on the table as well. Also, fair warning, I am going to now be more vocal about the national home ownership proposal that I've put out to the Senate Banking Committee through Tim Scott's office. And I'm going to share that. If I haven't heard back, I will be sharing that this weekend, and to get comment from people that are interested, and I'll copy Tim Scott's office on it, and hopefully we get some dialogue around this concept for a national home ownership program that I won't get into the details. Maybe on Saturday, our next POCK Talk is Saturday at 8 a.m. This Saturday at 8 a.m. Maybe I'll get into that a little bit there. Another thing that I'm working on right now on the engineering side is what I call the Kiron Canon. And that also relates to the whole structure of the memory. So there are, my work on the Enneagram, which I call the Enneagram, because I combined, I was the first to identify linkages between the Enneagram and other systems for understanding knowledge and creating kind of a filing system for all knowledge, and as well as a map of the consciousness, which breaks down into these 9 categories. An Enneagram is a 9-pointed star, and each one of those points represents a different personality type. And the essence of it is that this personality type is that, yes, we all have a public persona that is our face, and that differs in different contexts. Not that we're two-faced, we're 9-faced actually. And it's not, but not intentionally, although really good actors access their own authentic inner selves that represent these different personalities, these 9 different types. But mostly it's used in the well-known set, Riso Hudson. There's usually one dominant type that you're typecast as, which I don't agree with. And then there are 2, there's elements of truth to it, but it's not quite the right way in my view. And then there are wings to sort of closely associated or nearest personality types. And so there's also another triumvirate to look at, and that is how you are seen, how you see yourself, and how you would like to see yourself. So that's there is another triad that you can look at in the Enneagram. And so the idea with the Enneagram is to cultivate all of these types and therefore become more aware of the fullness of yourself, who you really are, and access your superpower of, because each one of these types has its strengths and weaknesses. And an Enneagram, someone that's not fully developed in the Enneagram. Yes, I've changed the word. I combined Ingram and Enneagram. And so in the Enneagram, someone that has developed awareness and developed the strengths in all of their types, they become ever more effective in everything that they do. And things become more attuned, more in alignment, more serendipitous, more synchronicities, all the good things. And maybe it's something like the force, that I talk about, negentropy, being the force of self-organization, and that creates beauty and proportionality and beauty, things that automatically resonate with us as harmonious and beautiful. Those are the outcomes that negentropy gives us and that we can be part of if we're dialing into that consciousness, into that mode of consciousness. So it's advanced, and it's not necessary for consider that your biohacking tip as well, right? Because I talk about how in my system of biohacking, cognition is maybe the most important part, in addition to all the normal biohacking science-based protocols and HBOT and magnesium L3 and 8 and PQQ and different supplementations and different techniques and exercises like the 5 Tibetan rites and all these different things that you can do to elevate your physicality, because that's part of who we are as well, right? So anyway, so that all of that information the high level is in my book, but there are thousands and thousands of pages that I've written over the years that are part of the canon that are accessible to to BROK when it's fully operational. And the reason that's important is it ties into, believe it or not, every business decision, because every business decision, whether it's enterprise level, and you could do a consciousness map, an Enneagram map for an organization too. For an organization, instead of talking about a personality, you could talk about a personality, but the personality of an organization is a culture. The personality of an individual is their personality or their character. So this everything true in one of my axioms that I have mathematical proofs for is everything true is scalable. And so that's therefore, that's a test that I can that I always do if I come up with a new concept. Is this going to apply in this scenario? And does it apply at the microscopic level to the macroscopic level, from the cosmological level to the nano, molecular, submolecular, atomic level, subatomic level? That is one of the key first thing I think about when I think about a new concept or principle. Is it scalable? And that means that as we build AI, we're building it in alignment with these principles as well. So that is this Kiron Canon, which is pretty unique. And no other AI in the world is going to have all of this. But it is important because with the very simple, I like to, you can expand all of this, but all of it can be made very simple as well. So just like all of these different levels of consciousness and things that you need to think about, you can start out by just thinking about long-term and short-term memory, and all these different levels of consciousness that we're, and the complexity of the individual that we're talking about can be simplified into what's the identity and the personality of the AI that you're talking to, and does it match the situation, and and are your goals lining up with your personality, right? So the strategic fit of the Ingram evaluation matrix. So to recap that super simple structure, 4 immutable categories: strategic fit, feasibility, financial impact, and risk. Those are the 4 immutable categories for pretty well any high stakes decision or any decision that you'll ever make, or at least, and whether you know about them or not. So it's better to know about them. That's Gurdjieff's thing. Gurdjieff's whole thing is that most of humanity are operating on the zombie level, and actually very few people ever wake up, and it takes a little bit of work to wake up, just like it takes a little bit of work to create a great artwork, to create a symphony. It creates a conductor that has learned the art. It takes musicians that have learned their instruments. It takes them all working together in concert, in harmony, in perfect timing to create a masterpiece. So that's what we're aiming for always, is to find this harmony and to know the different. You need to know the component parts too, and have them all working in harmony. So the strategic fit side of it, I talk usually more about the financial impact. That's pretty simple. That's what bankers usually focus on. Those are your ratios. Do you have the debt, the income to service the debt? Do you have what other resources do you have available? What collateral do you have? These kind of, a lot of the financial, how quickly can you pay the loan back? What's the purpose of the loan? Is it best met by a revolving form of credit or a term form of credit? All of these types of questions fall in very easily and are pretty simple math, right? But the most complicated part of that whole Ingram evaluation matrix is the strategic fit, because that requires the organization to know who it is, or to try to, and even if it's a guess, because knowing who you are is quite a, it could be very simple, or if you could spend your whole life time trying to find that answer to that question. So, which is part of the essence of a big, if not the essence, a big part of the essence of what Gurdjieff's teachings were about. So we need to know about our, in strategic fit, we need to know who we are, where we're going, and things like core values, goals, objectives, all of those types of things that we do in meetings. And there's lots of different ways and techniques, and part of it is the process. You can't skip the process. If there's a group of people, they all have to be involved in the process, and to determine who the organization is, their personality, their Enneagram for the organization. And it's also helpful if each of the individuals that are in leadership roles in that organization know their true type. And then you can understand where the other, where if there's a disagreement, sometimes it's, you can just, if you know the different types, you can know that one type is going to have a certain way of a certain lens that they look at the world through, like the type that is most associated with innovation in the Ingram Enneagram, the 9, is a naturally at odds with the type on the Ingram Enneagram, or the Enneagram that I call the governor, which is the governor, who is primarily concerned with fairness and order and making sure that rules are followed, and managing risk and protecting the nest. All of these things. Actually, I call it the governess because it's almost more of a feminine energy, and compared to the innovator energy. And there's different flavors of the innovator energy too. But if you understand where the different polarities are and how they're interacting, then you can communicate and get to solutions much more quickly. And right now in the agentic economy and all the multi-agent modes, other people working on something like the ZPE, as I am, the zero-person enterprise, and or maybe it's not a zero-person enterprise, but it's a swarm of AI, a team of AI agents to augment and amplify each person in a team. And to do all that, there needs to be an understanding of the different players and who they are and what they're trying to achieve, and a lot of the orchestration of how this is all orchestrated, how this the human is or the developer is the conductor of this orchestra, and they need to think a bit musically. They need to think they need to think what parts they need and how to put this composition together and how to conduct it in real time. And so that is something that is the whole industry, and this is on the fringes, on the leading edge of the industry still, that there's a lot, and this is the solution, is looking at things through maps of consciousness and giving roles based on this almost universal constant that's been known for thousands of years and has been developed up to the present day, to assign roles. And so these are all the things that are going into the consideration of how this entity BROK is structured. So that go beyond the patents even that we have, but you can see it's pretty unique. So enough on that. The next thing, the other thing that is imminent now is work on updating all the websites and infrastructure to prepare for the launch on the monetary side of things. So the X402 payment infrastructure that enables receipt and value transfers between agents and between human and agent human. That architecture is done. That's pretty simple compared to the other things that I was talking about, and that's patented and that's been baked in for a while. And I've been talking about that for a while. And the MBC-20 protocol, which is also part of the protocol that SPOCK was built on to enable and facilitate machine-to-machine transactions. And then to have all of this ready to have live transactions. And so we don't want to, July 24th isn't just a demo, it's a live live launch with financial capabilities, as well as so that we can start earning revenue. We were already earning revenue from some sources, and we can earn revenue right now from licensing, which is another area. I won't talk about that today. But when we have the level of novelty and patents that we have, there are other organizations out there that are working on similar things that might find it shorter rather than to figure this all out themselves. It'd be to license what we have and partner in that way. But no matter what, we're aiming for the stars with the interstellar bank. And I'm making good time, actually. So the next point I wanted to talk to you about is I've covered, there's 6 points that I wanted to cover. The interstellar, or the stellar note, the convertible note that we have now prepared and are talking to some larger institutional players, the Kiron Canon, and advanced memory models. Third, the website and infrastructure upgrades. I talked about the interviews that we're having. We're going to be on podcasts, on TV, and also the book. Yeah, so Genius, the book. Now I think I might be close. There might have been something holding me back from publishing it, and maybe the missing link is maybe I've got all the pieces now. So I wanted to, the whole economic theory of singularity economics is done. The Ingram quantum objectivism is, these things are never really done, but they are, the framework is there to explain the economy that we're in and where we're headed, and also a framework for that explains the consciousness from the perspective of quantum theory, a new kind of quantum, not a new kind of, a new way of a re-envisioning of quantum mechanics, and which is simply the most simple explanation is leading to this awareness is what I've referred to in the past as quadrivalent logic. So we normally think of, when we say logic, we think many people think logic is yes, no, true, false, and binary. We think binary logic, and most systems are built on binary code. And but we know that in the understanding of the universe from a more accurate, holistic view of quantum physics, that in fact it'd be closer, not exact, but it'd be much closer to say that the more comprehensive logic is quadrivalent logic, where we have yes, no, neither yes nor no, yes and no. And that is a great little simple little axiom to play with, and that will really help with neuroplasticity and it helps me to understand. I've been practicing that for a long time, though. I've been practicing this way of thinking, and that you can still use. And in communicating, you should generally use binary logic. In law, you pretty well have to use binary logic. Although sometimes you'll hear somebody say both things can be true at the same time. When statements like that are made, they're slipping into, and that happens more and more often. People are realizing that two things can both be true at the same time, and that's slipping into closer to, it's uncomfortable sometimes, but it's closer to reality, and or the illusion of reality, or whatever you want to call it. So we talked about that a lot, and the grants. So practical, so a mix of sort of practical things that are happening, and some of the more speculative things and exciting things and new connections and relationships that are coming to the table all the time, the inverted table, and progress on. And we can see more than ever in world affairs right now how important it is. And this is, everything that I'm saying here is not investment advice. investor activism with benefits. You could think of it as, and that's a good, healthy way to think about funds that you're putting into this. And there are, the risks I constantly note. And so I'm always transparent about that. And I think at the same time, this is something, even if you hate crypto, and I doubt if there's anybody that hates crypto that's watching right now, but tell your friends that even if they hate crypto, they need to be aware of it because it's clearly coming. Many nations have adopted Bitcoin as the reserve currency for their nations. And that is the direction. If you've been reading the articles, I see that as being the most likely logical foundation for the future of banking and commerce, is to have that as a fundamental layer. That's the only way, because it's the only truly decentralized crypto out there. And it's in a completely different category because of that. And so we cannot have a super CBDC, which is what the high table and their proxies, central banks that they control, central banks are pushing and advocating for CBDCs, not in America, fortunately. So kudos to new regulators that are in place that are resisting that and pushing for open crypto markets. And that's what we really need. And the two could coexist. So it'd be fine for banks to have crypto, and for it doesn't need to be fine. What we're focused on is making sure that we have a decentralized system, and that is best achieved. The most resilient way to do that is by moving the jurisdiction for a lot of this actually into space with the cooperation of and full awareness. With full awareness and transparency with the appropriate parties, and in the administration or the new regulators that are in place. And we have a clearly defined map to get there. But that's all out in the future. Right now, today, let's did what we did last week, and let's put in all of us. I'm going to do it myself as well. Let's make this a thing. We're going to see how we can move the needle by doing a spot purchase at the same time. Everyone who's listening, have your phone. Let's get our phones, get our wallets handy, and let's pick an amount that starts with 5 again, like we did last week, and make a purchase. And not one for trading, but one for the community, one for that you intend to hold. So put in an amount that is small, whether it's a small amount or a large amount, whatever amount you're comfortable, but so that we can all see the signal. Let's make it an amount that is starts with a 5. So that would be it's almost exactly it's almost exactly 11, any number that starts with a 11. So 111.111. Actually, it's gone up a little bit. So I'm going to 112. Yeah, so now it's 112. So I'm going to put in $112 and 34 cents. And that comes out to 5,391 SPOC. So I'm going to buy that now. Oh, the price changed again. You guys beat me to it. Let's see here. You have to put in more. Okay. I kind of liked 1111. That was cool, but we want to have the number to start with 5 because 5 is an action number. So I am going to put in 122. Boom. And that went through. So that is that for today, and the I see a nice little pop starting there, and yeah, hold that. And our goals are, I think it's in the, I did some financial modeling in the convertible note, and so that convertible note that shows the math, the aspirational projection that's not just pulled out of the air, though it's based on math, and so it shows us, the goal is still to get to $1 per SPOC, and the interim goal is around 45 cents. So we're less than half a penny right now. So that would be that'll be a very very significant milestone. And but I'm just, as people always ask me, so I'm where I think it's going, right? So that's I'm focused on building what we're talking about here: SPOC, the Ingram evaluation matrix, and now BROK. Oh yeah, and that's one thing. So in the last few minutes, the use cases for BROK. That's something really, really cool that is bigger than I expected. This is where the interaction with real people, discussion, dialogue with real people, and brainstorming and finding out what gets them excited, and what is, like with Ingram evaluation matrix and some of the more esoteric things, sometimes that's not widely interesting. For some of you, I know it is. So, and I like to be transparent and share the depths, and it's really cool, and it's very meaningful in my view, in my worldview, and I think and few of you agree. But for a lot of people, it's the basics, right? And so I had a really interesting new wallet, SPOC purchaser from the showcase at Nevada startup. She's working with artists, with painters, and she's developed a really cool app that allows painters at varying levels of skill to be able to generate art, graphics, portraits of attendees at conferences and weddings and things like that. It's a really cool way of combination of technology and human skill that provides a business opportunity for artists to earn an income from something that they're interested and passionate about. And this is a trend. More and more people are going to monetize what they're interested in and passionate about, and not have to worry so much about the money. And BROK is the key to this, right? And then I discovered, and then I mentioned in the notes, and I didn't talk about much, but met some Hollywood types, and one was a fellow that works closely with veterans and has a deep compassion and purpose and mission to help veterans, and I was watching, and he was talking with some other folks that had some pitches and things, but we connected later, and he said, "Wow, BROK." After we talked, BROK would be amazing for veterans, right? So a veteran that has limited, may have some limitations or PTSD, makes it difficult to get along with other humans. With BROK, the 100 FTEP version of BROK, or even the 15 FTPE version, that's like the horsepower equivalent, right? Like how many people can your ZPE amplify? Like, what is the productivity, human production value of your ZPE? And 15 is the equivalent of what 15 people could produce. 100 is the equivalent of what 100 people could produce. Our goal is for BROK to be the first FTEP 100, so producing what 100 people could produce. So a veteran, doesn't matter what their physical condition is, or even their social, if they have limitations in how much social interaction that they're comfortable with, or whether they want a lot or little. This could be a tool for them to do a real business, not, or a lifestyle business very easily, or beyond, and whatever fits their ambition, or whether it's just have a harmonious self-sufficiency or a harmonious world impact. BROK would enable people like that. It would enable artists who don't like math, or who and then talking to the president of the television studio, actors, models, athletes. They're always looking for an agent. BROK could be the perfect agent. We all have heard stories about how agents, there's egregious examples of even some of the best artists in the world have been treated horribly by their agents. And even I have experienced horrible experiences of bad faith from people who you would expect to be professional, and in accounting professions even. And it is important to, and that would not be an issue with, yes, mistakes are an issue. And this is why BROK is not a CPA, is not a CFA, is not a financial advisor, is not a lawyer, not any of those things, has all that knowledge, and at a genius level, but it will not be in the current regulatory environment, could not be certified to provide those services. And however, it could go right up to the point of completing paperwork for a veteran, for an artist. It could advise on what's a good contract, what's not a good contract, and then have a lawyer check the work. And with BROK there to keep the lawyer that is, or the accountant, whoever is involved in the process, accountable, to know that if the human advisor or the certified expert is being held accountable knows that they're being held accountable, and everything is being measured and determined and evaluated and recorded by a super robo genius banker, BROK, they're going to be more accountable. So just imagine how that is going to impact the lives of so many people. And so then you don't need to worry about people losing jobs, because each person probably the first people that would lose their jobs are people there. I don't think there is anybody that is, well, people have lost jobs already, but in many cases, people might leave to do a ZPE and follow their passion, follow their purpose in life, and knowing what they want because they've gone through the Ingram Enneagram and have clarity about who they are and what their purpose is in life, and now have a genius financial advisor to help guide them and be there for them all the time, and remember the details of the relationship and what they like, what they don't like, and what's good for them and what's not good for them, and in a totally auditable, explainable way, so that you're not turning over your autonomy to your agent, to BROK. You're getting advice, and it just like it has to be for the banker. The banker can't say that the robot told me so, and that's for a good reason. And neither should we trust our robots to dictate or give us directions or without explaining them. And sometimes that explanation may be obvious, but if you're on the same page with your robot, things are going to be a lot better. So that's maybe the most exciting thing that I've learned, is that BROK is actually a really, really big piece to this. So Spock is the vehicle. That's how we monetize. That's how we are all going to get rewarded from as all of these elements gain traction, and starting July 24th with BROK, and generating real revenue as a real business. And Spock is the way getting your Spock now is the way that you're going to participate in that in the future, when the world starts hearing about this. I think that's a good way to leave it. So thanks everyone for all of your contributions. Set your notifications, your alarm for Saturday. We'll do another 8 a.m. We'll do a live stream on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. so that it's more convenient for the rest of the other hemisphere of the world. And thanks everyone for your attention and joining us on this journey. I think this is going to be a great story as well. This is all part of this. I think it's going to be a great movie one day. So this is, and we're recording it right here, making history. So live long and prosper, everyone. And we'll talk again soon.